Hey everybody, how's it going? Kevin Freebie here, and today we're going to be talking about soloing over chord changes. First of all, how's it going? Hope everything's going well. I just released a video the other day, and in that video I told you that I was going to be throwing some new lesson videos out there, and this is the first one. Along with being the first one, you guys are going to get to join me on the journey of using the brand new microphone. So if there's any weird adjustments or I get a little loud or quiet, my apologies in advance. Also, you're probably noticing a new view. Normally, I shoot a lot of my videos from over here, where my amp is and all this. It's a whole different wall, and you've seen that a ton of times before. However, I wanted to go ahead and just kind of shoot in the spot where I hang out when I work. Feels a little more natural. All in all, I just like it a lot. If you prefer me sitting here or sitting over there for various reasons, please kind of go ahead and leave me a comment and let me know which one you like better and why. I'm always looking to make these videos better for you. So your feedback is a big deal to me. Okay, moving forward. About a week or so ago, I went into the studio with my band, The Side Hustle. Ross Rizzo, our saxophone player, had written a tune called Times Like Us, and it was arranged by Ian, our guitar player, and then we had a special guest on drums, that guest being Zach Nager. Zach Nager is one of my oldest friends and oldest musical friends, and also just one funky drummer. Okay. In case you don't know who he is, he was a founding member of the band The Grey Boy All-Stars, and he is currently the drummer for Carl Denson's Tiny Universe. I would normally kind of like plug where you might be able to see him or what's next for him, but clearly we are still in the middle of this whole COVID thing, and so everybody's home. Anyway, getting back to the story, we went into the studio a couple days ago, and we tracked this tune. This tune had solos for everybody, kind of a typical kind of jazz format sort of thing. Okay, so there was a bass solo in it. Yay for me. Started with a guitar solo, bass solo. Then from there, it was a saxophone solo, then drum solo, and then we played the rest of the tune out, kind of in a typical kind of straight ahead sort of standard form. Okay, it's a funk tune, it's a groove tune. I'm gonna cut to the bass solo right now. I hope you dug that solo. I got a lot of positive feedback for it. I went ahead and kind of put it up online as a sneak peek sort of thing for the song that was coming, and it got a lot of good feedback. One of the biggest things that I get asked about is playing over chord changes. Whether you're a beginner or whether you're a intermediate to advanced player, playing chord changes are a pain in the butt because there are so many factors involved. One factor is just whether or not it's a vocabulary that you've developed in a particular style or what kind of changes you're playing over. All in all, it's not a subject that many of us outgrow. I mean, you know, there will be changes that I find really easy, and then there will also be changes that I sound absolutely horrible on, and those are usually the ones that I'm going to focus on and practice on. Okay? For the next few lessons, we're going to be focusing on this tune, because I did kind of like take a poll as to whether or not people want longer videos or short videos, and the overwhelming consensus was that you guys would prefer shorter videos. So I'm going to break this solo section up into a few different chunks. Okay, today we're going to focus just on the intro 8 bars, and the reason that we're going to do that is because it's over an A7 altered chord, and you may or may not have any experience playing over this chord. If you do have experience, that's pretty dang awesome, and maybe we can share vocabulary and things like that. However, if an A7 altered chord is brand new to you, this will help with that greatly. So let's talk about the reason why the A7 altered chord even existed in this tune. Basically, the A7 altered chord kind of existed as a way of creating tension before landing into the true form of the solo. Okay, this song, even though it's instrumental, was kind of written with like a verse, chorus, verse, bridge type of approach. And the A7 altered chord functioned really well as a way of getting from one solo to the other, but also as a way of breaking the tune down and creating tension. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're first going to talk about what notes are in an A7 altered chord. So the A7 altered chord comes out of the melodic minor scale, and it is the 7th mode of the melodic minor scale. Now, whether you know your melodic minor scale or not, I'm going to go ahead and show you the scale for an A7 altered chord, and then I'll show you what the chord sounds like. A, B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G, A. Now for me, if you know anything about my fingerings, I like to keep going, so I'm going to repeat that until I run out of fingerboard. So we're here at A, B flat, C, D flat, E flat. And then without changing position, these are about all the notes I can get to. So as you can hear, it's pretty dark. I'll just go to the octave, just so you can hear it. I'll do it again. Really trying to get those notes in our ears. So next, I would take a standard dominant chord voicing for bass. We use this voicing all the time. In case you don't know it, it is 1, 3, flat, 7. So in this case, A, C sharp, G. Okay? A lot of times when we hear an A7 chord, we're thinking like more of like a funk sort of groove or something like that. So, you know, maybe some sort of strummy pattern or something. I'm just going to come up with whatever pops in my head. Well, that's great and all, but in this particular case, that sort of thing's not what we're going to be doing. I know it's kind of counterintuitive for me to actually play a groove or something like that and then go ahead and say, well, that's not what we're going to be doing. However, it's super important to understand that this is the same basic chord. Okay, I'm just going to mess with the notes that are on top of the voicing. So we have root, flat 7, flat 6, flat 5, and then normally I could reach all the way, but I don't think it's going to happen right now because I'm pretty cold. So we have flat 5, flat 6, flat 7, octave, flat 9, and then if I can reach this because my hands are still a little cold, we have the sharp 3 or sharp 9, depending on the way that you're going to talk about it. But since we called this a flat 9, I'm going to go ahead and call this a flat 3. Now the interesting thing about this scale is it does have both the major and minor third. Okay, but as you can hear, if I just play up and down the scale, just the top note changing, you can hear the tension. So my apologies if there's any scuff ups. Like I said, I am literally just touching my bass for the first time today. Okay. So once again, I'm starting right here on the root. So an approach that I personally developed was, okay, well, if I'm starting on the root nice and low like that, let me find out what happens with getting up to the root as my highest note and coming down. The fingering changes. Same notes. I still have A, G, F, E flat, D flat, C, B flat, and I'm down to A. However, since it's a different starting point, our visual reference is off, and also just our fingering in general. And so I wanted to make sure that if I was going to start with a chord tone, and that chord tone in this particular case was going to be the root, I wanted to know how to start at the lowest point and the highest point. Because music doesn't just go one way. It doesn't just go ascending and it doesn't descend only. Okay, so I had to learn how to play the scale here. And okay, now if I'm being completely honest, I had to learn the scale everywhere, but I think that this is a good starting point. So this is the loop. It's got a halftime feel. Those drums are so funky right there. So this is Zach and Ian. There's no other instruments. And notice the snare is going to be on beat 3. The tune's at 118 beats per minute. Okay. And as you can hear, the groove is just great. So it sounds like to me, okay, that Ian's got that top note of a 7th, and then he goes down to, he goes back up to the 7th, and then sharp 11. Okay. So this groove really has a lot of space. I love that when starting off a solo, because I can, for one, play as many things as I want. It really opens things up. Okay, so I believe the lick that I played actually on the solo, if I think of it, it was something like this. That was kind of the opening lick, right? So what happens there is, I'm going to go ahead and mute this for a second. Sorry. Okay. So what happens right there with that lick is that it's essentially a pattern going down the scale, and the pattern is moving in fourths. It's really just diatonic fourths to this whole kind of A7 altered thing, right? And as I was kind of breaking it down to kind of revisit it for this lesson, I noticed right away that, oh, it's in thirds. Makes perfect sense. Thirds are something that I practice all the time. Right? The only difference is it's a broken pattern. Instead of going, which brings me to a very important concept to keep in mind when you're soloing, or whether it's groove or anything, but I like to bring it up in reference to soloing. And that is basically that rhythm is king. If I play this, it sounds like an exercise, which, don't get me wrong, I mean, the way that I know how to play these ideas is through exercise. However, I don't want it to sound like an exercise when I'm in the moment and I'm improvising. That one little break changed everything. That's it. Okay. So this gets into the idea of creating vocabulary.